Hello, thank you for visiting this training video hosted by DXC Technology. Today, I'm going to show you how to enroll a new ordering, prescribing, or referring provider in the Provider Management module for Vermont Medicaid. Before we begin, please note that this video is intended for informational purposes only and does not guarantee approval of your enrollment in Vermont Medicaid. If you have further questions regarding Vermont Medicaid's enrollment criteria, please contact the Enrollment Department at 802-879-4450, option 4, or you can email us at vtproviderenrollment@dxc.com. For today's presentation, I'm going to start on the homepage of the Provider Management module. You can access the link to the module by visiting www.vtmedicaid.com and click on the Enrollment tab. To begin a new enrollment, I'm first going to click on the menu button that's located on the top left-hand corner of the screen. Under that, I'm going to hover over Provider Enrollment and select New Enrollment. The first thing that's going to populate is our welcome page. This welcome page is designed to give you some more information about what you may need in order to complete your application. There is an enrollment pre-checklist available to you. It is not required. However, it is a great tool if you want to know specifics regarding your enrollment type or provider type for the documentation you may need throughout the application. When you're ready to begin, you can click the Start button. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to register our application. Every application you complete within the Provider Management module must be registered in order to obtain a unique tracking ID called an ATN, or an application tracking number. To register, you must provide an email as well as a password created for this application. You can include a provider reference, however, it is not required. This is just intended in case you are doing multiple applications and you want to make sure that you can see easily throughout the application which one you're working on. This provider reference will be at the top of every page of your application as you're going through it. Once you've completed the information, you can click Register. This has launched us into a brand new application. A blue information box is going to populate, letting you know that it has provided a tracking number to the email address provided in your registration. This tracking number is unique to this application and will follow you throughout the application. You can click OK to continue. Before we begin our application, there's a few things I want to point out. First, your tracking number is located at the top of the application, as well as that provider reference right below it. If at any time during the application you have questions regarding a specific page of the application you're working on, you can access help for that page by clicking on the blue question mark on the top right-hand corner. If you have questions regarding a specific field on that page, field level help is available to you by hovering over the gray question mark located above the field itself. Anything marked with a blue asterisk is required, and you must complete that field in order to save and continue the page that you're currently working on. So to begin our application, I'm first going to start by dropping the box down under enrollment type and selecting that type. As noted earlier, we are doing an ordering, prescribing, referring, or attending provider today, so I'm going to choose an OPRA provider. Once I've chosen that, an information box is going to populate, letting me know that once I save and continue this first page of the application, I will not be able to go back and change the enrollment type for the application. This is going to hold true for the provider type as well. The reason for this is you may have noticed that once I chose my enrollment type, there was a whole bunch of panels that populated behind here. The enrollment type and the provider type that you choose drives the application in order to determine what information is needed for those specific pieces of information. That's why once you save and continue the first page, you can't change it because the application has already been tailored to that information. So I'm going to click OK to proceed. Next, I'm going to select my provider type. So I'm going to select from the drop-down, and today we're going to be a physician. Again, I'm going to get that blue warning box letting me know that once I save and continue the first page, I'm not going to be able to go back and change my provider type. So I'm going to click OK to continue. The next piece of information I need to complete is an effective date. What date do I want to be enrolled from? So you can request an effective date up to a year in the past or up to 90 days in the future. As I scroll down below that, I'm going to need to give the provider information for this individual provider. So I'm going to enter the last name first and then the first name. Gender, ethnicity is not required. However, you can fill these out if you choose to. You must provide a birth date and a social security number for this provider. Also, what will be required is a valid 10-digit NPI for the provider. The module does recognize and is configured to recognize a valid NPI, so it must be 10 digits long. Under that, we're going to ask you a series of 3 questions. First is, are you currently enrolled as a provider? If you were to choose yes here, it's a red box is going to populate and it's going to ask if you're actually here to revalidate. If you're an actively enrolled provider and you received notification to revalidate, this would not be the avenue to do so. If I was to choose yes here that I'm here to revalidate, it's going to bring me back to the home page in order to go down the right process to revalidate. We are doing a new enrollment today, so I'm going to choose no. It's going to bring me back and I can change my answer to no. Next, we're going to ask you if you were previously enrolled as a provider. If I choose yes here, a new box is going to populate to the right, and it's going to ask me for the previous provider identifier with Vermont Medicaid. And lastly, it's going to ask if I am Medicare enrolled. I'm going to choose yes here. Nothing's going to populate yet on this page. However, later on in the application, because we chose yes, we will have an opportunity to put in that Medicare participation information. The last information on this page that I'm going to need to complete is the contact information. This is the contact information for this specific application. Who wants to receive notifications regarding this application itself? So I'm going to enter in a name and an address. I'm going to tab through the zip code and then you'll notice that it's going to run through the USPS software in order to validate the address that I entered. It will provide suggestions. You'll see here in this line item, it has added the last 4 digits to the zip code. And I'm going to select the changes by simply clicking here in the line item. If you did not want to accept the requested changes, you can simply check the X box here and it will bring you back and save your data. Under that, I'm going to provide a phone type and phone number for this contact. You can add an extension or a fax number. And as I'm going through and entering my email address here, you'll notice that it does not have a blue asterisk on as of being required. However, directly underneath is a box to let us know what your preferred communication method is. If you drop the box down, you have 2 options, either email or mail. If you choose email here, you will be required to enter an email address in order to continue. We highly recommend that you do choose email as it's the quickest way to receive notifications from us regarding your application. There's many times when additional information is requested from the provider in order to complete an application, and that request will have a timeline associated to it. So in order to get that notification the quickest, we do recommend that you choose email. Once you've entered all the information, you're ready to save and continue. However, before I do so, I just want to go back up to the beginning to reiterate that once I save and continue this first page, I'm not going to be able to change the enrollment type and provider type on this application. If further on down the line I realize I chose the wrong one, I will have to start a new application. So you just want to make sure to review that those entries are correct. Once you have reviewed and it is correct, you can hit save to continue. The next page of our application is the specialties page. And before we move on and add our specialty, I just want to note that your progress bar is located at the top of every page. The current page that you're working on is indicated here in yellow. Any page that you've already completed is going to be indicated in white, and you'll notice that you can click on it, go back to it, review, and edit the information as needed. Anything that you have not yet completed is marked in blue, and you'll notice that you can't jump forward to different pages. Each page has to be completed in order. So I'm going to scroll down in order to enter a specialty related to my provider type. You have to enter at least one specialty to continue, and it has to be your primary specialty. So if you have multiple specialties to report in regards to your provider type, you have to make at least one of them your primary. So I'm going to do so by hitting the Create New button located on the panel. This is going to bring up a new window. and I'm going to make this first entry my primary specialty. I have to choose from the drop-down list of specialties available, and this list of specialties is driven from the provider type that you chose. So you're only going to see specialties allowed with that provider type. If you're looking at the drop-down here and you don't see your specialty, you may want to review the provider type choice that you made. I'm going to choose general practice today. And next I'm going to have to choose from the drop-down list under taxonomy to choose my taxonomy. And just like the specialty, you're only going to see taxonomies available that are associated to the specialty that you chose. You need to enter in an effective date for your specialty. And I do want to note that if you have chosen an enrollment date, effective date, that is in the past, so say you chose a date that's 6 months in the past, you want to make sure that you have at least one specialty that goes back that far. Otherwise, you may encounter claims or billing issues if your enrollment is approved. You can hit save when finished, and now you'll notice that I have an entry here for my primary specialty. If you have multiple specialties associated to your provider type, you would simply repeat the process. I could do so by hitting Create New again. This time I'm not going to check primary because I already have one. And I'm also going to say general surgery. I'm going to check from the taxonomy list, and I will say medical surgical and enter my effective date. Once I hit save, now I have two entries, with the first one being my primary. Once you've entered in all the specialties associated to your provider type, you can click Save to continue. The next page of our application is the service location page, where you're going to give us the details of your service location. So you're going to scroll down, and you'll notice that the panels work from page to page in the module. Everything is congruent and the same in order to make it easy. So I'm going to start by hitting Create New to make a new entry. And just like these specialties, you have to make at least one service location your primary. So I'm going to make this one my primary, and I'm going to enter in the billing name. Under that, I'm going to enter in the contact information for this specific service location. So this could be different than any other contact information you've given so far. The contact information on the first page was for the application itself. This is for the specific service location. So you may choose to have somebody else as the contact information here, or it could be the same. And you'll notice I'm going to enter the name and address, and when I go through and tab through that address, it's going to go through the USPS software, and I'm going to accept the changes by clicking. I'm also going to enter in an email address as the contact for the service location. And then right below that is going to be a place where you're going to enter at least one phone number associated to the service location. So again, I'm going to hit Create New to make a new entry. Select the phone type and the phone number. If you have an extension, you can enter that here, but it's not required. And then you can hit Save. If you have multiple phone numbers that you wanted to report, so maybe you have a fax number as well, you can simply repeat that process. Below that is going to be some more questions regarding your service address. First is the hours of operation. You're going to start by clicking the box next to hours of operation, which is going to open up a new panel for you to enter those hours. We're going to do so by hitting Create New. And we're going to be selecting days. So you have a few different options here in order to tell us which days and times you are available. You have the option to choose every day, individual days specifically, or you could choose weekdays or weekends. I'm going to go ahead and choose weekdays here, and I'm going to say that I am available from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But you can really get very specific here. So if you have different times for different days of the week, maybe Monday you're open in the mornings and Tuesday you're open in the afternoon, you can make an entry for each one of those days in order to really specify your hours of operation. Under that, we're going to ask if the service location is ADA compliant, if the service location is accessible by public transportation, and what are your after-hours arrangements? What do you instruct members to do if you're not available? In this case, we'll go ahead and say we instruct them to go to the emergency room. Directly below that, we're going to ask a few more questions. The first is, are you accepting new patients with special needs? If you are, you can simply check the box. There is an option here to opt out of the provider directory. However, we highly recommend that you do not choose that so that our members, when searching for providers, have all the correct and accurate data available to them. We do provide an option if you have an age restriction for your office. So if you do, you could check the box. A new box is going to populate and you can give us the minimum age and the maximum age of members that you see. If you do not have age restrictions, you simply leave it unchecked. We're going to ask if you're accepting new patients, and you choose from the drop-down list below. Either you're accepting new patients, accepting family members only, or accepting existing patients only. And then lastly, we're going to ask what your preferred patient gender is in your office. Again, choosing from the box below, you have the option to choose from female only, male only, no restrictions, or transgender. So we're going to choose no restrictions today. Once you've completed all the information, you can hit save. And now we have a primary service location entry available to us. Now, if you have multiple service locations to report, you can simply repeat the process. You can enter in as many service locations as you have available and associated to you. Once you've entered in all the service location information, you can click Save to continue. The next page of our application is the addresses page. This is where you're going to give us your mail to address. So you have a couple different options. If the mail to address is the same as your service location address, you have the option to copy it by simply checking the box here. However, if it is different, you will want to leave this box unchecked and enter the information here. This is going to hold true for your email and phone number. If it is the same as your service location, you can simply copy it, but if it is not, you can just enter in new information. You'll also notice that on this page, the preferred communication defaults to mail. Again, we highly recommend that you choose email as your preferred communication method, as you're going to receive notifications and information much quicker this way. You do have the option to enter in a prior authorization address here at the bottom. This is not required. However, if you have a designated prior authorization, for instance, department, and you wanted PA notices to go to a certain address, you have the option to enter that information. You would do so by clicking the plus sign to expand your selection, and a new box will open up in order for you to enter in that information. You'll notice nothing has a blue asterisk on it as being required. However, if you start entering the information, you must complete all of the information in order to be able to save it. Once you've entered in all the information, you can hit Save to continue. The next page of our application is the associations page, and this is where you're going to let us know any facilities that you are associated with. So you're going to do so by hitting the Create New button under the Group Association box. And you're going to look up any actively enrolled facility in order to be able to associate to them. So again, the facility has to be already enrolled in order for you to be able to associate to them. So you can do this by one of two different ways. You can either look them up by their provider ID, which is their 14-digit service location ID, or you can look them up by NPI. So if I'm going to look them up by provider ID, this is what this is going to look like. I'm going to have their 14-digit service location ID provided by the facility, or that information is available on our vtmedicaid.com website under member services and provider lookup. So I'm going to enter in that number here. And then after I've entered that number, I'm going to hit search. That will bring up their NPI automatically as well as their business name. But if you didn't have that information and you only had their NPI, you can simply search by their NPI, hit search again, and then it's going to bring forth their provider ID and business name as well. Now, if this facility had multiple service locations and you searched by NPI, it's going to show you all of their active service locations, and you would then choose from that list of locations. Once you've picked your provider ID or NPI association, you must choose an effective date that you began with that association. and an end date. Now, if you don't have an end date here, if you hover over the gray question box, it's going to let you know that you can use the end of time, or 12/31/9999, to indicate that there is no end date in sight. You don't know when you're going to be through with this association. And then later on, when you do have an end date, you can send us an affiliation form to end that association, or you can do this online on your provider portal account. Once you've entered in the information, you can click Save, and you can repeat this process as many times as you have associations. So for instance, if you are associated to a facility that has multiple service location IDs and you are associated to multiple service locations within that facility, you would want to repeat the process choosing the next provider ID location. Once you've associated yourself to all of the available service locations, you can hit Save to continue.